Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Wednesday show, which the Wednesday shows are dying out, remember. That is too many Wednesdays and too many shows for me. Today, we are going to be here talking with Jess Landry, Sofia Ajram. I may have mispronounced that, but we'll find out in a minute. And Nadia Bulkin. And we're going to be talking about little mutilations. But before you run, let me tell you, this is part of the Dark Tide series from Crystal Lake Publishing. So don't be afraid. We're just going to be talking about fictional mutilations, not necessarily real ones, but I can't promise anything because you've been here. You know what the deal is here. So let's meet our guests.
Launch sequence activated. This is not the drill.
Hello, welcome you guys. Thank you so much for being on the show. I cannot wait to find out about another Dark Tides book. So let's first find out who you are. So let's go round robin. You guys introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about how you got with this mutilations kind of theme. I'm very interested in this. In a way that I don't want to admit too much that I'm interested. I'm casually interested. So, Nadia, can you introduce yourself first?
Sure. I was actually going to volunteer Jess to go first because I feel like she was me. But I can quickly introduce myself. I'm Nadia Bulkin. I write horror. And you may know me from my short story collection, She Said Destroy, which was Word Horror in 2017. But other than that, I sort of write kind of feminist, social satire type stories, which I think is why Jess asked me to take part in the project. But I will let her talk about how that all happened because I was actually recruited in. So
excellent.
That's right. So hi, I'm Jess Landry. Similar to Nadia, I also write horror fiction, a very feminist swing as well. For this project in particular, Joe Meinhardt at Crystal Lake Publishing had emailed me with the whole pitch about the Dark Tide series, which is 3 authors contributing a novella each per book. We're lucky number 7. And he asked me who I would love to partner with on this. And it was kind of a very easy thought of who I wanted to invite. And luckily, both of these wonderful people were available and eager, and it turned out truly some disgustingly wonderful stories.
Yes. Yeah. How about you, Sofia? What's your take on this?
I was also recruited by Jess, and I was so excited because body horror is definitely a genre that I love to watch and love to read and love to write. So it was a fun little project, and I'm so excited to see it all come together.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and tell me a little bit about you as well.
I am a metalsmith by day, sort of writer by night, and so that's kind of how I split the majority of my time. Sometimes they overlap, and I'll do some genre-themed jewelry or jewelry collaborations with some authors. But yeah, that's basically it.
Awesome. Well, I'm familiar with the Dark Tide series from Joe, or from Crystal Lake Publishing, I should say. There's been, so you're number 7. I know there's a bunch in the queue. Who decided on this theme? Was it you, Jess? Like kind of the mutilations? I've heard this tied to Clive Barker. I'm actually going to show the cover real quick. Yeah, and also tell me when this is going to come out.
Yeah, so this is out Friday, April 28th, very, very soon. And I forget if did we all decide together, I think, to do it as body horror? I feel like we did, yeah.
I think you had the starting idea.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
This was going to be the whole thing. And I remember being like, oh man, I had never written body horror, but I will figure something out.
And you did it very well.
Hell yeah.
Was that like a challenge for any of you to go? I mean, well, first I should say, is this darker than what you normally write? And by darker, I probably mean more graphic since we're talking about body horror. Because there's all kinds of dark places that you can go that aren't graphic. But would you say that like this, you really had to like kind of search to reach that extra vein?
For me, no. You can
Same.
tell by the posters on my wall that, you know, I'm kind of into it already.
Yeah, well, I've actually edited one of your things for Alessandro, I think, Jess.
That's right,
So yeah,
that's
I
right.
know all about how dark you can go.
But yeah, no, I having worked before with Nadia on There Is No Death, There Are No Dead that I co-edited with Erin French, and then having worked with Sofia on a couple of other projects, including a novel that you may want to talk about or may not, I don't know, but knowing the range that they both could do, I knew that they were an easy choice to bring it to this little collection here.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm in the same boat as Jess, where I'm a firm body horror addict. So it was like difficult to parse down what story I wanted to tell because there were so many options. But I thought that the ones that we all came up with in the end were like they like work so well together. I find.
Yeah.
I would say,
Did you?
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I want to hear you guys speak. I didn't want to speak.
I would say in terms of plot, no, not darker. But in terms of like, since I'm not somebody who writes body horror, like I did have to kind of push myself. And there were definitely comments that Jess left that were like, can you get a little gorier here, please? Like I need a little more detail. And I'm like, oh, fine. But because I'm a little bit more, I would say like kind of subtle, but like, yeah. So I had to like push myself to be a little bit more explicit, I would say.
Yeah. Did you guys have to do any kind of special research? I mean, you don't have to reveal too much about what might be in your basement, but do you feel like you do anything to kind of gear up for body horror? Or I've literally written one body horror piece in my life, so asking for a friend.
For me, no, I just cranked up the tunes and went to town and had a blast doing it.
I did, which was a change of pace because I'll usually just like write whatever I know, which I partially did because it's the story that I had written is based in Montreal, but it is a story about clinical trials, which I didn't know very much about because it's a lot of it is so under the table and kind of like hidden away. But there are a lot of gruesome stories, and I did read there is a nonfiction zine by someone in the 90s who was a guinea pig just repeatedly over the slot of like 2 to 5 years, I want to say. And he created a zine where folks would like anonymously or using a pseudonym write various stories about their experiences and then like rate the clinics so that other people would know.
Oh, wow.
And I think that kind of grassroots grunge movement informed a lot of what I ended up writing.
Very cool.
Yeah, I did a lot of research. I ended up trying to like this is why I don't write science fiction is because I like need to like ground myself in like something that's real. And so then I'm like, okay, I must find a plant disease that like that's what I need. So I'm like researching plant diseases. That was my main thing. But then I was also listened to so many podcasts about pageant preparation. Like I learned so much about pageants, which has nothing to do with the body horror element of things. But yeah, it was a big part of the story because I wanted to make sure that I accurately sort of describe like that world because I think there's probably a lot of misconceptions that people have about it. So I wanted to make sure to do it justice.
Awesome. Well, I'm kind of excited to hear some of these. Do you guys want to read some of these? Can we hear you guys read? All right. Let's start with Jess as the ringleader, and then and just read however long you want to read, and then we'll come back and talk about it for a few minutes.
Okay, sure. I selected maybe not the most body horror-ish part, but it's a part of it, so we'll go along with it. So this is a part of my story, The Night Belongs to Us. And here we go. C sat on her mattress in her windowless room with her back against her single brick wall. A dull bulb shone an orange hue overhead, and the hallway light seeped in through from under the metal door, reflecting off the 3 other metal walls. She found it nearly impossible to sleep with that crack of light in the beginning, always on for the worker bees, the lifeless drones who only lived to serve, and serve they did. But eventually, it became just as commonplace as the screaming or the metallic stench that lingered over every inch of this place. She'd been one of them once, a worker bee, a young girl cast out of her own home, looking for someone to love her, someone to call their own. Before she knew it, her friends, who'd promised their couches and homes to her, had shut their doors and changed their locks and blocked their phone numbers. Her family, the few that she could rely on, disappeared all the same. They blamed her for everything. They said that she'd made it all up, that she'd lied about it all. They said that she was the toxic one. They said that she had only done this to herself, that her mother was sick and not to blame. So off she'd gone, no older than 16, but thinking she knew best on her own, thinking she could survive a life on the streets. The first few months had been an adjustment, not knowing if she'd have a place to sleep, rationing her little food in case the usual dumpsters behind restaurants were picked over by the time she'd gotten there. But she'd done it. She'd survived. She'd proven it to herself that she was a fighter, that she didn't need anyone or anything to protect her. She could take care of herself. Still, she longed for a warm bed, and even more, though she'd never say it out loud, she longed for a mother, a real mother, one who would love her unconditionally, one who would take care of her, one that wouldn't hit her or stab her or burn her in the spots hidden by her clothing. Someone shuffled by her door then, their boots clinking against the metal floor. Above, the usual sounds of rattling pipes shook. She'd come to know every sound of this place, which they'd come to call the underground, the clinks, the clangs, the hours when most active. For an abandoned building, the old ghosts running through the pipes and walls kept busy at all hours. Much farther up, out of her hole in the earth, it was almost night. She couldn't get out much when the sun was out. She had a specific duty, one that required the veil of night, when she was free to leave, to roam the streets, almost carelessly through downtown, to do what she did best, hunt. C gave her head a shake and sat up on the floor-level mattress. She looked to her metal walls, all three adorned with shelving filled to the brim with knickknacks and treasures and things she'd found on the streets, things tossed away like trash. The items on display gave her something to look forward to as she lay in bed, waiting for sleep to take her. She'd often look over one of her many trinkets, coming up with stories as to what they had meant to someone or at one point in time, before they'd been forgotten, before they'd been left out to rot. She turned to face her brick wall then, her fingers finding the fingertip-sized slits around one loose stone. She wiggled her fingers on either side of the slab, removing it from the wall, and reached her hand into the void. She pulled out a vintage box, the logo and design just as worn as the pipes above her, the tin lid creaking as she carefully opened it. Inside, a collection of special trinkets and jewelry amassed over the years greeted her. Her private treasures, things that meant something to her, things that needed to be guarded, hidden away. Her pale finger pushed through each item, lingering on a few of them long enough to rouse a memory and a partial smile. Half a carnival ticket, an old high school football championship ring, a folded up newspaper article, and her latest piece, a golden locket. C picked up the necklace, letting it twirl in her fingers. The light from under the door caught it as it spun, filling her room with a golden glow. C stopped the spin, then placed the necklace around her. It dangled low, just around her heart. The metal felt cool against her chest. Above her, the pipes sang their waking song as they pushed along the evening meal into everyone's room, through a small tube on the metal wall opposite C. She watched as a pile of gore seeped its way in through the round pipe cover, spilling into the feeding bucket below. Not tonight, she thought, as she stood readying for what lay ahead, readying for the hunt. The end of that part.
I had to unmute everybody for a second. That was awesome. Beautiful reading. I like I really caught the theme of the victim blaming, which I think is always important to kind of highlight a little bit, that is often the sad case of what happens. So, but thank you. Like what kind of inspired that your story particularly?
Well, this one is very much based around where I live. I live in a city called Winnipeg in Manitoba in Canada. And we have a very big issue with respect for houseless people, lack of respect for Indigenous people. And so the story itself is about, a young woman who's going to search for her mother, who's lost to the streets of Winnipeg, essentially. And it kind of goes through the whole missing and murdered Indigenous women movement that we have up here, where they're basically, women are murdered and then completely disregarded by society, by police, by everybody, it seems. And so it's kind of a heavy a heavy backstory for that one, but it deals with themes that I think are extremely important and that we need to be talking more about.
Mhm. Excellent. And I agree with you. I think fiction is the place to bring these things up. It's a safe space where we can face the nightmare. So,
Totally.
well, thank you so much for that. Who wants to go next? Who's the next victim? But not really, or mutilations of victims. Maybe I shouldn't phrase it that way.
I can go. I don't mind.
Okay. All right. We'll hear from Sofia then, real quick. And how do you pronounce your last name? I think I got it wrong.
You got it correct. It's Ajram.
Ajram. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yay. All right. Well, let's hear from Sofia about her story. And then we're going to ask you basically the same thing, is what kind of led up to you writing this story.
Awesome. So this scene is kind of in the middle first half of the story and will rely on me doing a demonic voice, so I will try to commit to the bit. Did you get my text? Nia is standing from the couch when we first walk in. Her laptop is sitting on the coffee table for the first time, not blaring Ghost Hunters, but something else. The words terrible tragedy and isolated incident blare from its speakers. I don't know why, but my first thought is a school shooting. Priya heel steps her shoes off. Is everything okay? I'm pulling my sneakers off, looking between the two of them. Priya's face is a taut, pale mask. Look, Nia is saying, it's so fucked up. And it is. She's got MTL blog pulled up on her beat up laptop, covered in half peeled band stickers, a bunny with demonic eyes, and a bumper sticker style one across the back that reads, Worship the Void. And there are two headlines. One that says something about a guy beating his friend to death, and the other about a rare case of cannibalism. It's not someone we know, but Nia still seems legitimately upset by this. I go into the other room and pull up Twitter. Explore feeds flood with local news. I don't know why, but this doesn't surprise me as much as it should. Montreal's so fucked up. Between Polytechnique and Luca Bagnotta, nothing surprises me about what happens here anymore. I open the article and the headline strobes against my eyes. Montreal police arrest man suspected of eating 5-year-old son. Oof. The headline photo is yellow police tape. I have to swap to online forums before I can find any photos of the guy. I pinch to zoom in on the photo to get a closer look. Come to think of it, he kind of looks familiar. The dad of someone I know? My own dad's coworker? I rack my brain for clues. Scroll, scroll, scroll. A little more. And then finally, an article with his name. Holy shit. Priya? I yell. Yeah? Get in here. I can hear the floorboards creak as she pushes herself off of Nia and strides across the apartment. I swivel my phone on my desk to face her. Tell me this is just some weird coincidence. Priya's expression twists as she takes in the image with the headline. Her eyes darken. It's him, Gilbert McNutt, the guy from the trial, in there to put food on the table for his kid. I mean, that is really fucking weird, but yeah, it has to be. I don't know what to say or if I believe her. It's almost exciting, something this bizarre happening around us. How close could it get? Priya leans back on her heels, then adjusts her posture. She tugs at the shirt fabric across her abdomen as though to give her skin more room to breathe, and I think I see a shape there, but just liken the motion to a moment of self consciousness. Damn, R.I.P. Junior McNutt, she says finally. What about you? My stare travels up. I'm looking at her now, hunting the mask of her face for some biological betrayal. Do her pupils shine a disturbing opalescence? You been feeling okay? Since the trial? Her gaze jumps from my phone to my face, her expression unreadable, a dark cloud shifting over the look in her eyes. Yeah, she says, just the usual. Upset tummy, insomnia. Then, oh, she says, oh? There's also this unbridled rage I can't seem to contain since that day. She changes her voice so it's all distorted and low and demonic. I feel it coming on now. Oh no. Priya? I'm feeling
Extra hungry.
Coming around the backside of my chair now, and me going, "No, Priya, no, down, bad Priya," and her ignoring this, fingers extending like thin brown fronds.
Hungry for some brains.
Nia, thin, ominous voice from the next room over, "They're coming to get you, Luca." And the pillar of Priya's shadow falling over my face, big stupid grin, hands raining down on me like spiderlings, in my hair and in the crook of my neck, squealing like a slaughterhouse pig. Not sure just exactly how funny that wording is now, but all the other stuff, the news and the real cannibalism, already gone and forgotten.
Ooh, all right. I really want to hear what inspired this. Where did this come from?
I have been writing a bunch of different stories that all kind of like came from the same thematic crux, where I was looking at ways in which our bodies are harvested or ignored or stolen from us through like data and labor and all of these different elements. And clinical trials felt like at the center of that, where healthcare of people gets ignored for like pharmaceutical companies. And then I wanted to look at what would be the opposite of that. So I felt like someone's friendship would feel like the complete opposite of that. So that they would like, I guess, fight against each other in terms of like community is the opposite of like capitalism, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that that would be like an interesting place to look at that as a theme.
Yeah, I like it. I think it did well. And you guys, these are 15,000 word stories, aren't they?
This one's around like 20. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot to play with here. So I'm really interested to see how these snippets that we're hearing now develop. So, and I think you can pre-order the book right now, can't you?
You can, yeah.
So this is, as you're listening to this is the best time to go get this book.
Read along with it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Nadia, would you like to read for us?
Yes, I will do that. And
Okay.
Sofia, a great demonic voice, just FYI.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. All right, let's hear from Nadia Bulkin now. I want to see what's next.
Hi, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to be to the beginning of my story, Your Next Best American Girl. And just to give a bit of context, the main character, Veronica, is competing in a pageant, and she has, unfortunately, these sores on her arm that she hasn't been able to get away with. So I'll just start from there with that context. Just one final question, Veronica. How'd you get that bandage on your arm? The sores on her right arm had not gone away in the intervening 4 days. In fact, Dr. Gillies' treatment only seemed to make them angrier, redder, more horrifically bulbous than they already were. One in-person visit and 2 telehealth appointments had not helped clarify the crisis. Give it time, he said at first, and then we don't want to make them more irritated, like they were in a hostage situation and he was too much of a coward to go in guns blazing. All of which meant that Veronica had been forced to drive around the city yesterday, buying every type of adhesive bandage she could find. Flex Stretch and Hydro Safe and Permastay and the like. What about this one? Can you see this one? She repeatedly asked her mother, Irene, who'd glance up from her phone, squint at Veronica's tricep and say, well, yes. She thought she'd pick the one that would look the least obtrusive against her skin. Evidently she had failed. Under the stage lights, Veronica's mind flitted like a housefly from one outdoor activity to another, a world of mud and gasoline that she had never known, but had overheard boys and girls chatter about during passing periods and wanted high. She needed something that would balance out her clean-cut paper doll image, something that would appeal to the down-home country judges of Miss Pioneer spirit. One of them, the wife of the Forger Food CEO, blinked her long eyelashes in exaggerated expectation. I was riding an ATV through the woods and scraped my arm against some bushes, Veronica said, forcing a ghostly giggle. Sometimes I can be a bit clumsy. The judges chuckled. Mrs. Forger Food's CEO raised her painted eyebrows. At least they couldn't knock her for being over-rehearsed this time. Addison was just behind the stage, having the last tresses of her chestnut hair delicately curled by her mother. As Veronica passed them, trying not to trip over the taped-down electrical cables, Addison gave her a smile so fake it would have curdled milk. I didn't know you rode ATVs, Dairy Queen, she purred. That's cool. Addison's mother giggled. Abby, don't be mean. Obviously it wasn't cool, and obviously Addison's mother wanted her to be mean. Addison's mother had probably given the bitch the idea to put glue on Veronica's headband at Junior Miss Bliss a few years ago. It was insane that Addison had been banned from every pageant in the region after that. She didn't know the glue was so strong, apparently. What a joke. But then, pageantry was just a twisted simulacrum of real life. The harshest sort of light, the kind that burned away comforting lies like high school isn't forever, and sooner or later, everyone grows up. It was then, after Addison's snide comment, that the itching started. No, itching was too gentle of a word for the eruption on her arm. More like a pulsing, a pounding. By the time the judges were ready to announce the winners and all the contestants teetered back up on stage, Veronica had to grind her teeth together to push the desire to scratch her arm bloody to the back aisles of her consciousness. Stephanie Agar won Miss Congeniality. Jada Poppy won Miss Photogenic. Krista Spoot won second runner-up. Excitement at the possibility of an improbable victory temporarily overtook the itch, and Veronica glanced across the stage, hoping to exchange an encouraging smile with her friend Nayeli. But it was Addison who she caught looking at her, eyes narrow with scorn. It only lasted a second before Addison swiveled her head away and gave the audience a big grin. Our first runner-up, not me, not me, not me, contestant number 11, Veronica Moonster. Damn. But Lucretia had trained her for these moments, and Veronica swallowed the disappointment so fast it gave her heartburn. She clamped on her perfectly calibrated, gracious loser smile, accepted the little plastic trophy as if it was a Presidential Medal of Honor, and golf clapped when Addison was announced as the winner. Again. But at some point during the ritual of crowning, maybe it was when the sash slipped over Addison's shoulder, her dam of control broke. In one swift fall from grace, Veronica passed the award to her right hand so she could claw her left into the latex covering her sores and dig deep into that cluster of wrong, just begging to be corrected. She imagined her fingernails scraping muscle, grazing bone, ripping tendons open and apart. Imagined her fingers pushing past all the damaged tissue, all the way through to the other side of her arm, where the air in her skin would be clean and free. What a dream. The pain that radiated from her arm was so satisfying, like a firm pluck of her most sensitive nerve endings, that she actually let out a small noise of obscenity and delight. And that's it.
Snap.
Wow. Yeah, definitely.
Scratches.
Way to go for presenting a pageant how I actually picture it must really happen. Not from the audience side, but to be a contestant.
Yeah.
Tell us, how did you come up with this idea?
So for me, honestly, I was so intimidated by the idea of body horror and mystery, combining these two themes, that I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to figure this out? And I landed on a theme that I was like, let's just do what you know. What I knew were things that have trypophobia, which is kind of an internet disorder, but like I definitely get it, you know. And that's like fear of like clusters of holes. It's like people like send each other like pictures of clusters of holes just to like freak each other out, and like trypophobia. It's like the whole thing. And I had a lot of eczema when I was a child, and I used to have these really vivid like eczema dreams, like tearing open my hand and seeing like everything underneath, because I'd have to like wear all these like special, you know, contraptions and stuff. Anyway, terrible things. And then I was like, okay, what is a place where someone could absolutely not get away with having this? Like, and I thought, pageants, that would be really, really awkward. And so it just kind of went from there.
Awesome. Very awesome. Well, how is it working together, the three of you, like on one project? Have you guys ever collaborated in this way before, either together or with other authors?
Not
Any
me.
of you?
Me neither.
You guys even know each other? That's my next question.
Yeah, no, it was I found it really great. Like I edited anthologies, so it was kind of in a way like that too. We didn't really discuss any of our stories before. It was just kind of like go off and do whatever you want, and it ended up just coming together in the best possible way that it could.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. How long did you guys get to write this? That's what I'm kind of curious about too, because I know that Joe's like had these pre-planned for quite a while. How long did it take you guys to write 15,000 words of these stories, or thereabouts?
Sophia, how long did it take you?
I had a rocky trip with this one where I had initially written a novella for the pitch that was maybe a little too cerebral for the audience. And so I had done that over the course of like a couple of months, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do something that's like funner and less depressing, because what I had written for the other story was like very heavy topics. Not that this one isn't, but it has like a little bit of a lighthearted element and like younger characters. And so this one, I think I like wrote out in like a month, which for me is short. I am so long-winded. It takes me like decades to get work out. So it felt like a very like fever dream moment.
Nice. How about you, Jess?
A few months for me.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm so slow. I feel like I can't. I'm just doing the math. I can't usually write more than 5K in a month, so it was probably about 3 months for me.
Nice. For me, I work as a screenwriter, and so I have to move quickly on a lot of things. So sometimes I can move very fast, and sometimes I can move very slow. But this one was kind of in the middle, honestly. It was a bit of a struggle because it is such a heavy topic as well. And, when you're dealing with stuff like that, you kind of want to approach it in a way that isn't terrible or adds more to the terribleness of the situation. So it was definitely a fine balancing act to kind of intertwine this horrible thing that happens in reality mixed with this kind of like weird sort of vampire, but not quite a vampire sort of thing. Not spoiling anything.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I am super excited to get my hands on this, and just I'm going to say probably today, by the time anybody's watching this, because we are doing a pre-record. So yeah, I will probably already have it and be halfway through. Sorry for all of you who are just getting it. No, I'm excited. Let's wrap up with you guys just telling other things that you guys have. Like, this is a good time for us to find out where we can follow you. What do you have coming out next? We'll start with Jess, and we'll go back around this time.
Sure. So upcoming projects, I'm co-editing another anthology called Playlist of the Damned. That's coming out from Weird Little Worlds Press. We're taking submissions, actually. I believe that opens May 1st. So if anybody watching who wants to write a story about killer rock bands or whatever, find us on Kickstarter, pre-order the book, hey, and we'll see what we can do. And then I also have a couple of films that I'm working on, and hopefully soon I can announce something that may or may not be related to the story that's in this book.
Nice. Good mystery building there. So now we're just left a little bit wondering. How about you, Sophia? What can we expect from you? Where are other places that we can find you besides Dark Tide 7?
I am so delighted to also be in the Playlist of the Damned anthology that's being kickstarted right now. And I have a very fun idea that I'm working on. So that will be coming out. And then I'm also editing my own anthology that is open for submission right now and closes May 31st. And it is entitled Bury Your Gaze, an anthology of queer tragic horror, or tragic queer horror. My two hamsters are like running so desperately on the wheel of my brain right now. But yes, it will be open to submission until May 31st.
Awesome. And Nadia, where can we find you?
Well, hilariously, I'm also editing an anthology.
Are you guys like friends or something?
I'm co-editing an anthology with Julia Rios called "Why Didn't You Just Leave?" And it's all going to be about stories that answer that question that you come up, when like somebody's like, "Oh, I lived in a haunted house. Why didn't you just leave?" Okay, well, this is like the answer, right? So that is happening this summer. We're kickstarting this summer, and there will be an open call also in August. So yeah, that is really hilarious that we are all doing anthologies. It's just, it was
busy
together that we have to like spread the joy, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm going to be looking up all your anthologies because I started a newsletter that shares all the open submission calls. So now I have to go find these and add these before I send it out later today. So
awesome.
Thanks.
Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. Thank you for reading this. I cannot wait to read this book. Congratulations to all of you on some excellent work. Congratulations to Crystal Lake Publishing for nabbing you three and getting you to collaborate on this project. So
yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And for everybody watching, make sure you go to the links below and get your own copy of Dark Tide 7, Little Mutilations. And I will share it one more time so you know what you're looking for. And until next time. Yeah, it's always the left, right.
Wait, no.
On my screen, it's this way.
Yeah.
We're just jamming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Air guitar. All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for being here. And everybody, I don't want to see you for a week because you're going to be reading Little Mutilations.
That's right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.